Good morning, class. Today I am going to deal with the next topic, that is behavior disorder in school going children. So, before starting with the introduction, what is uh, what is behavior? Behavior means the way in which child acts or behave, that is known as behavior. And school going children who comes under the age group of 6 to 12 years, that is known as school going children. So here we will mainly focus on the behavior disorder of the children, of the school going children who comes under 6 to 12 years of age. So firstly we will start with introduction. Behavior disorder include many tension reducing activities that appear during childhood at various levels of development. Some of these habits develop from adult through imitation, whereas others as purposeful movement. So, as so in introduction, as we can see, in normal children are healthy, happy, and well adjusted in life. This adjustment is developed by providing basic emotional needs along with physical and physiological needs for their mental well-being. So there they have opportunity for development of independence, trust, confidence, and self-respect. So these all needs required to be satisfied to ensure the optimum behavior development of a child. So if there is any deviation in all these needs, so that will lead to the behavior development of a child, mainly for example due to the failure in adjustment or due to any external environment, adjustment in the external environment or presence of any internal conflict, that will lead to the behavior disorder. And behavior disorder include many type of tension reducing activities that appears during the childhood age and various levels of development. And some of these habits children acquire or develop from their parents through imitation. Children imitate what their parents are doing, and others as a purposeful event. Children do these things with a purpose. So this is the introduction of um, behavior disorder. Then second is definition. When children cannot adjust to a complex environment around them, they become unable to behave in the socially acceptable way, resulting in exhibition of peculiar behavior, and this is called as behavior problem. In definition we can see, if child is not able to adjust or cannot adjust to a complex environmental situations or the surrounding around him, so the child become unable to behave in a socially acceptable way, that results in a exhibition of peculiar behavior. Peculiar behavior means unusual behavior, not like the normal children, and this is called behavior problem. So we can see prevalence of behavior disorder. Prevalence here overall 1.223% of children suffer from behavior problems or disorder, in which here we will see 10% children are school aged, 80% features into adolescence, and out of those 80%, 65% enter into the adulthood. And boys have 4 times more risk of behavioral disorder than girls, and urban children are more prone to behavior disorder as compared to the rural children. So the widespread of the behavioral disorder, here you can see in incidence. In India it is 5.2 to 29%, in China 6.1 to 8.9%, in Canada here 1.1 to 8.9% children are suffering, in New Zealand 6.7% children are suffering, in Australia 7.5 to 8.8% children are suffering, in Germany 4.2 children are suffering, and Brazil 5.8%, and in Holland 1.8 to 3.8% children are suffering worldwide in um, worldwide of behavioral disorder. Then causes. What all are the causes that results in behavior disorder? First is faulty parental attitude. In development of a child personality, influence of parent attitude is a very most important and meaningful factor. So if parents will show faulty attitude towards their children, that will lead to aggressive or antisocial behavior of children, and also it will lower the self esteem of children. So that can cause behavioral disorder in school going children. Then second is inadequate family environment. Inadequate family environment, like stressful environmental condition or surrounding of a child, like for example, only one parent is there, or if parents are fighting in front of the children, or low socioeconomic resources, that can lead to the behavior disorder of the child. Then third is mentally and physically sick or handicapped children. If child is mentally or physically sick or handicapped, it can also lead to behavioral disorder, as mentally sick children don't know what they are doing because their brain is not developed or not function properly. Lack of skill is necessary. uh, Lack of skill, so skill will be lacking that is necessary for day to day living. And example of mentally handicapped is mental retardation. And likewise here, physically handicapped, if children is physically handicapped, or if there is any problem in their body that makes it difficult for them to do things which other children can do very easily, so in that condition child will develop aggressiveness or anxiety or tension, and that can lead to the behavioral disorder. Then next, fourth is influence of social relationship. Social influence also affects the child, as it affects the child's thought process and behavior. In school going children, we can see peer group influence the behavior of the child very much and very easily. The children tend to do things which their friends do. So influence of social relationship is there. And influence of mass media, it is very important, as mass media influence child behavior very much, as the child they are not yet mature enough to distinguish between the fantasy world from the reality. And most of the children are spending more than 3 hours a day on social media, which is twice as likely to suffer from poor mental health. So it is influence of mass media is the most important contributing factor uh, of behavioral disorder. Then influence of social change. Social change is influence of social change may be good to many school going children, but can also affect their life, like social changes in school, like failing to manage their class works or homeworks, or having a poor sleep habits, or skipping the classes, poor grades in school, not having attention in school, or not able to study properly. So these all are the influence of social change. So these all are the 6 causes of behavioral disorder. Then we will see types of behavioral disorder in school going children. Mainly there are many types of behavioral disorder in toddlers, infants, preschooler, schooler, but mainly here we will focus on school going children. There are 4 types of behavior disorder in school going children, that is habit disorder, speech disorder, sleep disorder, and anxiety disorder, which we will deal one by one. So here first is habit disorder. Habit means something that child do often without even thinking, a habitual process. So that is known as habit disorder. In habit disorder, first is nail biting. Nail biting Nail biting is a bad oral habit, especially in school age children beyond 4 years of age. It is a sign of tension and self-punishment to cope with many hostile feelings towards parents. Here, nail biting, it is a bad oral habit in which a child bites his or her nails. Especially it occurs in school age children beyond the 4 years of age, between 5 to 7 years. And nail biting, it is a sign of tension, anxiety, or any type of depression, in which the children self harm themselves. They give self punishment to them to cope up with the hostile feelings towards their parents. Hostile feeling means they are having a strong feeling against their parents, so they will self harm themselves as a self punishment. And it may continue up to the adolescence, and child may bite all the 10 fingernails or any specific one. So it's up to the child will bite all the 10 nails of the finger or any specific one. And the bite may include cuticle or skin margins of the nail bed or surrounding tissue. Here, the bite may also include cuticle means base of the nails, or the skin margin or the surrounding tissue of the nails may be included in nail biting. So here in etiology we can see, you can see the in the picture of nail biting, how the hands are looking after the biting of the nails. Here in etiology we can see persistent nail biting may be indicative of emotional problem. Means, persistent nail biting means if the child is having any type of emotional problem like anxiety, depression, or any type of school phobia, that results in the persistent nail biting. And psychosomatic means, what is the meaning of psychosomatic? It is psychosomatic involves both body and mind. Means, mental factor that causes the physical symptoms. For example, here we can see child is having a mental factor, that is any type of anxiety, depression, or tension, which results in physical symptom, that is nail biting. So that is known as psychosomatic. Then sign and symptoms here, first is rotation. So rotation of teeth can be there, or rotation of fingers can be there. Then alteration of incisal edge or incisor. So child may alter the incision teeth while biting his or her nails. And then inflammation of nail bud. So while biting the nails may be inflamed, or inflammation may be occur in the nail bud. Then management, what management we can provide to these children? First is child's hand to be kept busy with creative activities or play. So parents should be kept in mind that parents should give any type of creative activities of drawing or colors or any type of play activities to the child, so that child's hand should be kept busy, and child should forget about the nail biting. And punishment to be avoided, parents should not give any type of punishment to the child, but parents should praise the child for well kept hands by breaking the habit to maintain the self confidence. And parents should also provide emotional counseling to the children. And they can also apply nail paints of light cotton mitten as a reminder also. And parents can also apply bitter taste nail paint in their nails, so that child will avoid nail biting, to avoid the nail biting in child. And also increase calcium intake. Increase calcium intake we can provide in diet of children who are nail biting. So this is all about the nail biting. Then second is tic disorder. Here you can see the picture of tic disorder, a child with tic disorder. Tic disorder. What is tic disorder? Tic disorder is repetitive non-voluntary movements or vocalization. Means, here tic disorder is a compulsive repetitive sound movement that often difficult to control. Means, a bad habit that is unable to control, that may be motor or vocal, that may be in movements or vocalization. and it occurs before 18 years of age. It occurs mostly in the school going children. Here you can see simple, that is eye blink, and in complex, that is distracting gestures can be there. Then the age of onset of tic disorder is 2 to 15 years of age, and in 75% cases of Tourette disorder, symptoms appear by the age of 11 years. Tourette disorder means it is met when 2 years is passed, and Tourette disorder is a nervous system disorder that is caused by any type of genetic or environmental conditions. Then transient tic disorder, it occurs in approximately 4 to 24% of school children. Transient tic disorder lasts less than 1 year, and it is a temporary condition which makes a child repeated movement or repeated noise, and it is involuntary, means the child is not doing on a purpose. Then types of tic disorder, here two types of tic disorder is there, that is simple and complex. In simple, it is again divided into two, that is simple motor tics and simple phonic tics. In simple motor tics, these are simple, brief, meaningless movements like eye blinking, facial grimacing, head jerks. These last for less than 1 second. Here we can see in simple motor tics, motor means movements, so child will do simple meaningless movements, and this movement will last for only 1 second, like eye blinking, facial grimacing and head jerks. And in simple phonic tics, here child will do meaningless sounds, will produce meaningless sounds or noise like throat clearing, coughing, barking, sniffing or hissing. So this is simple tic disorder, in which simple motor tics and simple phonic tics are there. And second is complex tic disorder. Here it is again divided into two, that is complex motor tics and complex phonic tics. Complex motor tics, these tics involve slower, longer, more purposeful movement like sustained looks, facial gestures, biting, banging, whirling or twisting around the options gesture. Means here in complex, more complexity will be there, means child will do longer and more purposeful movement, like sustained look will be there, and facial gesture will be there. Then child will bite someone, or banging of the head will be there, or twisting around. So these are all the complex motor tics. And in complex phonic tics, it includes meaningless sounds, and here meaningless sounds may it include words and phrases and statements, like for example shut up or yes you have done it. So these are all the complex phonic tics. Then management, what management we can do for tics, that is we have to educate the patient and the family about the course of disorder in a reassuming member. Then completion of necessary diagnostic tests, including self report of child and parents, that is necessary diagnostic tests should be completed, and comprehensive assessment, that is complete assessment of a child should be done of cognitive abilities, perception, motor skills, behavior and adaptive malfunctioning behavior should be checked. And also the cognitive behavior therapy. In cognitive behavior therapy means this method changes the thoughts, feelings and behavior of the child and improve the overall life satisfaction and functioning of the child. In cognitive behavior therapy, the child is asked to deliberately perform a tic movement for a specified period of time, interspersed with a brief period of rest. That will help the child. So this method will help the child in changing the thoughts, feelings and behavior, and therapist will help the child in maintaining the overall improvement, satisfaction and functioning. So this is all about the tics disorder. Then third is teeth grinding, that is bruxism. Teeth grinding is also known as bruxism. It is an involuntary activity. It is most common problem of children during sleep, and this problem child grinds the teeth during the sleep, and it occurs mostly among the school going children. So teeth grinding, it is an involuntary activity, and it is most common problem of a child during sleep. Child will grind the teeth, and this problem is most common in school going children. And what all are the causes why the children are grinding their teeth during the sleep? Due to the disturbance of dreams. If child is having any type of disturbance, then due to any type of tension and aggression, if child is having any type of tension or aggression, that can also result in teeth grinding. Then if a child is having condition like meningitis and encephalitis, what happen in meningitis and encephalitis? Imbalance or dysregulation of neurotransmitter are there, so that lead to teeth grinding. And also mentally retarded children may have teeth grinding. So these all are the causes of teeth grinding. Then management, how or what will you do to reduce the teeth grinding or bruxism? That is, reduce the tension of the child by improving the environmental condition or surrounding area of the child. The parents have to reduce the tension of the child or any type of anxiety or depression of the child. And do not allow the child to watch any type of horror stories or thriller movies before going to the bedtime. So parents should not allow the child to watch any type of horror movies or thriller movies before going to the bed or before bedtime. And parents should provide a proper food to the child and make a happy bedtime for the child. And also parents should discuss the child the feelings, what feelings the child is having, and should also give them a solution about that. So these are the management of teeth grinding, that is bruxism. So here we have completed our first disorder, that is habit disorder, in which we have learned three things, that is nail biting, tics, and teeth grinding, that is bruxism. Now our second topic is speech disorder. So speech disorder, what is speech disorder? Speech disorder means child is having a problem in communicating with other children or parents or with others, and also child is having a problem in forming speech, that is known as speech disorder. Means here child is having difficulty in talking or communicating with others. So here first is stuttering and stammering. Stuttering and stammering means repeating the first sound of a word. Stuttering or stammering, it is also known as a fluency disorder, and it begins with the age group of 3 to 5 years. And stuttering and stammering is probably due to the inability to adjust with the environmental condition, or if the child is having any type of emotional issues that lead to the stuttering and stammering. And it is characterized by interruption in the flow of speech. The child is having interruption in the flow of speech, means child will not able to speak fluently, and child will be having hesitations while speaking. And spasmodic repetition means child will having a hesitation in uttering the same words. And prolongation of sound specialty of initial consonants. Initial consonants means first letter of the word or first sound of the word. So child will having a problem in the initial consonants. So here you can see the picture. Do you want to go to the beach? So here child is having problem in the initial consonants of the word. So causes of stuttering and stammering, there are four main causes of stuttering and stammering: developmental factor, neurogenic stuttering, psychological factor, and other factors. So here developmental factor. In development factor, abnormality in speech motor control such as sensory and motor coordination will be there. Means child is having a problem in a sensory and motor coordination, that will lead to the developmental factor. And in neurogenic stuttering, stroke and traumatic brain injury are the two most observed causes of neurogenic stuttering. Then psychological factors contribute, such as uh, emotional trauma that leads to the psychological stuttering. And in other factor means child may get stuttering from their parents. That means that is genetic. If parents stutter, then child will also stutter. So these are the four causes of stuttering and stammering. In symptoms, we will see stuttering and stammering symptom: interruption in the flow of speech. Child will be having interruption in the flow of speech, means child will not able to talk fluently. And prolongation and repetition of words will be there, and child will be having problem in starting a word or a phrase. Whenever child will start a word or a phrase, he or she will face problem or difficulty in starting a word or a phrase. Child may have hesitation while talking with other people or other friends, that they will make fun of the child. And child may also have a trembling lips and jaws while trying to talk. And interruption like use words frequently before attempting to utter certain words. So before uttering the certain words, interruption like used are used more frequently. So these are the symptoms of stuttering and stammering. So what management we can provide to these type of children? Parents should be reassured, and parents should not show undue concern and accept his speech without pressurizing him to repeat. So parents should not pressurize the child, and parents have to accept the situation of the child. uh, and children should be given emotional support. Parents have to give emotional support to the children. Or older children with secondary stuttering, they can be referred to speech therapist. And also behavior modification and relaxation technique parents can provide to resolve the conflict and emotional stress of the child, that will improve the confidence in child. And also parents should not criticize the child, and parents should give reward to the child whenever he or she performs well or takes the initiative. And parents should not force the child to socialize, as this may aggravate the shyness. Parent have to understand the situation of the child, and parents should not force the child to socialize with other friends or family members, as this may aggravate the shyness of the child. So these are the management of the stuttering and stammering. Other main condition is cluttering. Mainly cluttering is characterized by unclear and hurried speech in which words tumble over each other. Cluttering means here words will be mixed up and tumble over each other, and also there will be a awkward movement or gestures of hands, feet and body. And these child have erratic and poorly organized personality and behavior problem, means this child will be having a irregular movement, or not properly organized personality and behavior problems. And these child will be needed psychotherapy. So we can provide psychotherapy to these type of children. So this is cluttering. And next in speech disorder is dyslexia. Dyslexia is the most common disorder of difficulty in articulation. Articulation means to say something clearly or fluently. So it is a most common disorder with difficulty in articulation. And it is caused by the abnormality of teeth, jaw or palate, or due to emotional deprivation. Abnormality of teeth, jaw or palate, like cleft lip or cleft palate. Here child will not able to communicate properly, or not having a very good flow of speech. And here we can provide treatment of the structural abnormality, and speech therapy should be done adequately in that type of child. And if no structural problem are there, and if any absence of structural problem, that means child is having any type of emotional disorder, so that factor should be also ruled out. And child needs counseling. Proper counseling and guidance should be provided to the child, and parents should be informed about the modification of the family environment and correction of deprivation. So parents, we have to also inform to the parents about the modification of the family environment and also the correction of deprivation. So this is all about dyslexia. And here we have completed our second topic, that is speech disorder, where we have learned three things, that is stuttering and stammering, cluttering, and dyslexia. Now our third disorder, that is sleep disorder. So sleep disorder means child will be having difficulty in speech. So in speech disorder, here we will study. In sleep disorder, here we will study our first disorder is somnambulism. Here you can see the child with suffering with somnambulism. Child is walking while sleeping. So somnambulism, it is a common sleep disorder, and it is also called as sleepwalking, where child will be walking while sleeping. So in this condition, children are aware of the environmental conditions or surrounding during the episode, but are indifferent to it. And when these children once wake up or awake, they will forget everything about the episode. The child is aware about the environmental surrounding, but when the child once wake up, they will forget everything about their sleepwalking. And nowadays in India, several families are suffering from somnambulism, and it occurs about 5 to 8% of the children. Causes, what can be the causes of sleep disorder? Any type of anxiety or any feeling of worry, fear, that is that are strong enough, so that can result in sleepwalking. And sleepwalking, here we can see the symptoms of sleepwalking. Symptoms of sleepwalking is that is confusion, disorientation when woken up. If child will woke up suddenly, then child will be having confusion and disorientation, that where is he, what he is doing, and a blank look on their face. Child will be having a blank look on the face, that he or she doesn't know what they are doing. And opening their eyes while still asleep. Some of the child, what they do, while sleeping they open their eyes, and they are having no memory of the episode, they don't know what they are doing, and it is and performing a detailed activity of any time while still asleep. So what they do, while still sleeping, child do a detailed activity of any type while sleeping. So these all are the symptoms of sleepwalking. Management, what management we can provide to these children? The first is locking the doors and windows of the room in which child is sleeping. So parents have to lock the doors and windows of the room in which child is sleeping, so that child could not go outside the room while sleepwalking. And parents should remove all the dangerous objects and correction of superstition. Parents should have to remove all the dangerous objects in the surrounding area or environmental condition, so that child may not harm himself. And in at most advanced cases, if child is having more of somnambulism, then at that time parents can provide small amount of diazepam to the child. So this is the somnambulism, that is sleepwalking, where child walk while sleeping. Now our second sleep disorder, that is somnambulic. It is sleep talking. Here you can see the picture of somnambulic where child is talking while sleeping. So this is a sleep another type of sleep disorder in which child talks during sleep. These child talks irregularly and give the gaps same like conversation. Here what happened, child talks irregularly while sleeping and but give the same gap while conversation, like while communicating with parents or their siblings. Child will talk same as it is in sleep also. And parents, if parents observe that sleep talking of the child, they feel that their child is talking with somebody. They feel that, like any type of superstition or superstitious things are there in their home, and they feel like that their child is talking with someone else. And child gives good facial expression also. While talking in sleep, child give good facial expression also. Then what can be the causes of this sleep talking? Children who are having incomplete talk during the daytime by the influence of parents. Those children who are having an incomplete talk with their parents, with their family members, or with their siblings or friends by the influence of their parents, those children are likely to have sleep talk. And those children who are having any type of stress, anxiety, tension, depression, so that can also lead to sleep talking. Children who are having conflict with siblings and schoolmate. So most of the children have conflicts with their siblings or their brothers and sister, so or also schoolmates, so that factor can also lead to the sleep talking. And children who sleep after listening to any type of story or any type of movies or any type of TV serials, so that also lead to sleep talking. And children who have more feeling of homesickness, so those children who have the feeling of homesickness, so those children also, in those children sleep talking will be there. So management, what management we can provide to those children? Parents should always sleep with these children and assure them that they are with them. And parents have to satisfy the needs and wants of the children. Parents have to resolve the conflicts if persist with any other children. If child is having a conflict with her siblings or any peer groups or any of their friends, then parents have to resolve that conflict. And we have to advise the parents not to show any type of movies or stories video before sleeping. And parent have to give comfortable environment to the child for sleeping. And parent have to make good relationship between the child and older siblings. So parent have to make a good relationship between child and older siblings, so that uh, so that there will not be any conflict between them. And parents have to provide a tension free environment to the child, so that child could sleep peacefully. So these are the management of sleep talking. Now our next topic is nightmares and night terrors. Nightmares and night terrors, this is most common in school going children. In this, what happened in nightmare, what happened, child gets awakened due to frightening bad dreams. While child is sleeping, child gets awakened due to frightening bad dreams, but the child is conscious about the surrounding. While sleeping, what happened, child gets woke up due to a bad dream or a frightening dream, but children is conscious about the surrounding area. That is known as nightmare. But in night terror, what happened, child gets, during sleep child gets awakened and sits up screaming and fearful and very terrified, and unable to recognize the surrounding. But after some time, child will recognize the surrounding and go to sleep again. So this is the difference between nightmares and night terror. Nightmares and night terrors, what can be the symptoms? It child suddenly awake during the sleep period. Child will suddenly awake while sleeping, and child may get frightened or fear, or and may not be fully alert with the surrounding area, and child will describe all the frightening dreams in detail to their parents and caregivers, and child wants or seeks a response to comfort given by parents. Means child child wants that their parents should confront him, and also provide mm, emotional satisfaction to the child, and may resist return to bed because of fear of the recurrence. Means child will resist returning to the bed because the child will think that this type of frightening and bad dreams will come again. So these all are the symptoms of nightmares and night terrors. Then management, what management we can provide to these type of child? Parents have to reassure the child by holding the child. Parents have to give emotional support to the child that nothing will happen to them, and parents had not to scold the child, but parent have to speak in very soothing tone that there is nothing wrong, and parents have to discuss the dream images with the child and work together with the child to change the outcome, and parent have the child to go to bed in same time every day. In same time, there should be a routine that child should go to same time to sleep every day, and parents have to avoid the scary books or scary movies or scary serials before sleeping. So these are the management of nightmares and night terrors. So here we have completed our sleep disorder, that is sleep disorder, where we have learned three things, that is sleepwalking first, second is sleep talking, and third is nightmares and night terrors. Now our next topic here we will discuss, that is anxiety disorder. Anxiety means child is having any feeling of worry or fear that are strong enough to interfere with one's daily activities. Child is having any type of fear that is strong enough to interfere with one's daily activities, that is known as anxiety disorder. In anxiety disorder, first is school phobia. School phobia, here you can see the picture of school phobia, where child does not want to go to school, and it is most important behavioral disorder in which child will refuse to go to school or to stay in school without any attempt to conceal. Means child will refuse to go to school, and he or she will not go to school or not stay in school. School phobia, it is an emotional disorder of the children who are afraid to leave their parents, especially mothers. Means here separation anxiety disorder, we can say it is an emotional disorder where child is afraid to leave the parents or to leave the mother, and child does not want to go to the school. And school phobia is also known as school refusal. It is a symptoms of crisis situation of developmental stages and cry for help which needs a very special attention. Here child will be having a situation of developmental stages where cry for help will be there, which needs a very special attention. So causes, where here we can see causes of school phobia, that is individual factor, that is withdrawal means away from that place, away from the school, avoiding those school people or school activities. And separation, withdrawal, and also withdrawal, we can say that child does not want to leave his parents or mother, that is separation and anxiety disorder, we can say. Separation anxiety means child is having a fear of separation with their parents and mothers. And also family factors are there, family surroundings are there, environmental surroundings. So and factors specific to school, if child is having any problem in school, or if another older children are bullying the child, or if child is inattention to their school work, or if any type of psychiatric disorder is having in child, like for example depression, anxiety, tension, any type of phobic anxiety or other psychiatric disorder, so that can also lead to the school refusal or school phobia. Then sign and symptoms. So what sign and symptoms we will see in those type of children? High level of anxiety, depression, tension will be seen in those type of children. And headache will be there, nausea and abdominal pain and palpitation will be there in those type of children. The symptoms are usually school day linked, will be there, the symptoms. And parents might think that uh, the child don't want to go to school, so they are making वो excuses बना रहे हैं, they are making some type of excuses. So they will take these things lightly. So what management we can provide to those children? First is habit formation for regular school attendance. Parents have to make a habitual formation for regular school attendance. And parents have to play sessions and other recreational activities at school, where children will be having a play session and recreational activities at school, so that child's anxiety or depression level can be reduced. And school improvement of school environment should be improved. And also family counseling should be provided to the family and parents to resolve the anxiety related to maternal separation is very important factor. So a family counseling can be provided to resolve the anxiety related to the maternal separation. Then the next topic here in this is shyness means a child is we often say this child is very shy, this child not talks very much. So what is shyness means leading to complete withdrawal, is considered as a behavior problem. Complete withdrawal means away from the place, avoiding people and activities. Child would usually enjoy that thing, so it is a complete withdrawal from the society. So what can be the causes of those shyness? Genetic inheritance, if their father and mother have that same problem, so the child will also having that problem. Then environmental cause, like lack of exposure, if child is not getting enough resources or enough exposure, that situation also lead to the shyness. And any type of cultural norms in the society, that can also lead to the shyness. So what management we can do for these children? We have to assess the cause of shyness, why these children are behaving like that. We have to talk to the child, what is the problem, and we have to provide exposure or different resources to the child by arranging small get together with the same age group of peer group. And we have to not pay attention to the child's mistake, and do not compare the child with other child. So we have to not compare those child with other child, like this child is also of your age, but that child is very intelligent, very hardworking. So we have to not compare the child with other child, that lowers the self esteem of the child. Then the last topic in this is uh, ADHD, that is attention deficient hyperactivity disorder. So attention deficient hyperactivity disorder here, attention deficient hyperactivity disorder, ADHD. So here we can see here there are classification or three types of ADHD, that is in class 1, class 2 and class 3. Class 1. In class 1, inattention plus hyperactivity plus impulsiveness. Inattention means child will not able to focus in anything, not attentive while doing any type of work, and will be hyperactivity means aggressive behavior will be there, and also impulsiveness. Impulsiveness means child will act suddenly without even thinking. So inattention, hyperactivity and impulsiveness, so these three category makes the class 1. Then second, class 2. In class 2, hyperactivity plus impulsiveness, that means aggressive behavior and also impulsiveness, that is child will act suddenly without even thinking. And the last is class 3, that is inattention, means child will not attentive or not focus on things. Then etiology. What are the factors that lead to ADHD? What factors are there that will lead to ADHD? That is genetic factor. Genetic factor is that if the child's mother or father is having that problem, if there is any problem in blood relation of the child, or parents or sibling having ADHD, so that lead to ADHD. Then biochemical theory. Biochemical theory, it is caused by the reduction of neurotransmitters, that is norepinephrine or serotonin. So that norepinephrine and serotonin, these neurotransmitter influence the brain functions in the cerebellum, so that results in ADHD. Then third is pre, peri and postnatal factors. Pre, peri and postnatal factors, in this what happened, if mother maternal smoking or alcohol use during pregnancy, if mother is taking any type of drugs or alcohol during pregnancy, so that lead to ADHD. Then environmental issues, environmental factors, like in rare cases you can see exposure to lead or any type of toxic substance, or premature child or low birth weight child can lead to ADHD. And also certain types of we can say psychosocial factors, like psychosocial depression or anxiety, that can also lead to ADHD. So these are the 5 causes or etiology of ADHD, that is attention deficient hyperactivity disorder. Now clinical features. What clinical features we can see in ADHD child? Sensitive to stimuli, easily upset by noise, light, temperature and other environmental changes. Here the child will be sensitive to the stimuli and will get easily upset by any type of noise, any type of light reflection or temperature or other environmental condition in his surrounding. At times the reverse occurs and the children are flaccid and limp, sleep more, and the growth and development is slow in the first month of life. Here the child will be flaccid, that is loose muscles and soft muscles will be there, and the uh, what happens, slow growth and development will be there in the first month of life. And general coordination defect will be there, child will not able to coordinate easily, and child will be having short attention span, that is inattention. Here we have seen in types, inattention will be there, child will easily get distracted, and child will not able to finish a task if child is doing any task, so he or she will not able to complete that task. And impulsivity behavior will be there. Impulsivity behavior means child will act suddenly without even thinking. And also child is having memory and thinking defect, child will not able to coordinate with memory and thinking, and child will also have a specific learning disabilities. So these all are the clinical features of ADHD. So treatment, what treatment we can provide to ADHD child? pharmacologic, here it is divided into two: pharmacologic and non-pharmacologic treatment. So in pharmacologic treatment, we can provide stimulants to the child such as amphetamine and methylphenidate. So these stimulants, what they do, these stimulants increase the dopamine level in the brain. So what happened, dopamine level is, it is a neurotransmitter, and it is associated with motivation, pleasure, attention and movement. So it boosts the concentration of the child, and it will also reduce the hyperactive and impulsive behavior of the child. So we can provide stimulants, and we can also provide non-stimulants such as tricyclic antidepressant, and also we can provide norepinephrine reuptake inhibitor that improve the symptoms of ADHD, that reduces the behavior and anxiety problem of the ADHD child. So these all are the pharmacologic. And then second is non-pharmacologic. Non-pharmacologic therapies include psychologic therapies, where behavior therapy and cognitive behavior therapy are there. Behavior therapy, behavior modification will be there, and CBT, that is cognitive behavior therapy, it is a short term goal oriented psychotherapy in which CBT mainly aims to improve the mental health of a child and focuses on changing the cognitive distortion and behavior of the child, that is known as cognitive behaviors topic. So this is all about the ADHD. Here we have discussed the fourth thing, that is anxiety disorder, where we have learned three things, that is school phobia, shyness and ADHD, attention deficient hyperactivity disorder. So last here is the nursing responsibilities in behavioral disorder. So what all are the nursing responsibilities in behavioral disorder? Here we will see nurses play a vital role for prevention, early identification and management of behavioral disorder in children. Assessment of specific problem of the child by appropriate history and detection of the responsible factor, informing the parents and making them aware about the causes of behavioral problems of the particular child. Here nurses will play a major and a vital role for prevention and early identification and also the management of behavioral disorder. A nurse will assess the specific problem of the child by taking the appropriate history and detection of the responsible factor, and nurse have to inform the parents and making them aware about the causes of behavior problems of the particular child. Then nurse will assist the parents, teachers and family members for necessary modification behavior or modification of environment at home, school and also the community. Nurse will encourage the child for behavior modification as needed and will help in promoting healthy emotional development of a child by adequate physical, psychological and social support. Creating awareness about psychological disturbance which may lead to behavioral problems during developmental stages. And nurse will provide counseling services for children and their parents to solve the problem whenever necessary and for tender loving care of children. And nurse will also participate in the management of the problem child as a member of health team along with pediatrician, psychologist and social worker, referring the child with behavior problems for necessary management and support to better healthcare facilities, child guidance clinic and support agencies may be provided. So this is all about the nursing care or nursing responsibilities of the behavioral disorder. Here comes the end of the topic. If any doubt or queries, you can ask. Thank you.